All right, guys. So was The Crow? Oh, I didn't get the right thing. Hold on. Live, right? Was The Crow as bad as they say? I want you guys to stay tuned, hang out, and we're going to find out. Welcome to Nerd Culture. I'm Jess, and in this episode, we are talking about this year's Crow, actually. And I've had a lot of viewers say this is my favorite movie. Well, not this one. The actual original film was their favorite movie. I've had people tell me they've watched it hundreds of times over the years. Um, and I'm sure many of you have memorized many parts of the movie, right? So we're diving into this new one, this 2024 version of the movie. Um, we're gonna bring on our see, I got my note out of line there, but joining me tonight is a friend, a fellow podcaster. We have been talking about doing this, I don't know, before June, I think, since before it must, yeah, right, something like that. About talking about this because I think in June it got pushed back. So what happened was we were like, oh no, it's destined to fail. So we said when it comes out, we're gonna talk about it, and it's gonna be bad. And even though I wanted to see something good in it. I don't know. But what I'm going to do right now is bring on my good friend Elvis, podcaster, movie fan, musician, all these things, and we are going to talk about, I don't know. Some people are calling it maybe the worst movie of the year.
Quite possibly. We'll see what kind of trash they're gonna come up with by the end of the year. But yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great to see you again. It's been just over a year since we did our first podcast together.
It's so funny, right? It kind of lined up like almost just a year because we were just talking about that the other day. So we are here a year later. It's a lot of fun. I haven't actually got to speak with you face to face in quite a while. We've been messaging back and forth about The Crow a lot. And I'm like, stop. Yeah. We have to save it for the show.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you guys are watching, I do want to warn you, there possibly is spoilers, but I also know that a lot of people watching this aren't going to go out and watch the movie. So it's kind of fine, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what were your thoughts going into The Crow?
I wasn't a big fan of the fact that they even made it in the first place. I mean, there were some rumors that, like earlier, they could have been like a more accurate version of based on the comics. So it would have been closer to comics rather than the '94 movie. I was like, well, that would be amazing if done well.
If done well, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the problem was that the more they leaked, like for example, Eric's makeup and everything and the awful tattoos.
Yeah, let me see if I have a good picture of that while you're talking about it.
Yeah, and then later when the trailer came out, it was like, this doesn't look good. It didn't look as bad visually. Some of the action looked decent, but even in the trailer, you already got the whole outline of the entire movie.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's not a good look.
It's not. I was like, that's a little big, but I mean, I think we said, the hair is bad, the makeup is bad, the tattoos are bad. He looks like, that Jared Leto Joker kind of,
Everyone says that. Yeah.
It's, I think because he is, the Crow, he's this, he's who we're following around. I think, the look, I don't know. They could have still made it look cool, but I did find this. Where the direct? I got a little note here from the director where he says he think. Let's see. Hold on. I have it here. The look was me in the 90s when we were squat raving in London, mixed in with some modern influences like Post Malone and Little Peep. And I hope that people today who are 19 look at this and go, hey, this guy is us.
And what does it have to do with The Crow? Like, you know what I mean? This was my problem from the very beginning. It seems like he had an idea for a movie, and he just piggybacked on the core IP, to get
Yeah.
more people to watch it. Because when I started watching this movie, it was super clear to me that this has nothing to do with the '94 movie starring Ben Lee, and has nothing to do with the comics, not even the sequels or anything. It's a completely different thing. And he was saying like he put some of his own life experience in it. So why not just make your own movie?
Yeah,
Make your own
no,
thing.
I see exactly what you're saying because if he wanted to make this like semi bio autobiographical like experience, just don't slap, the crow on it.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, like it killed me immediately as I'm watching like 30 to 40 minutes of like these these two people, and it didn't even feel romantic. I didn't feel like I had no there was no emotion behind it for me. The whole setup of this relationship, which is supposed to drive the whole damn movie, it was it was really lacking.
Hmm.
Let's
Yeah.
see, I have a picture of these people somewhere here. I thought, here we go.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly. That's the thing. Like in this movie, you get the first roughly 40 minutes, give or take, of just them establishing their relationship, which seemed kind of rushed, and like it seemed like they only spent like a few days, maybe a few weeks together. As one thing, and even then, it didn't feel like the kind of love that someone would have to come back from the grave to make it right. Whereas in the original movie, by the time the movie starts, Shelley is already dead, and you can
Yeah.
see her only in flashbacks, small moments. And through those flashbacks, you cared more about them, and you felt the love in there. And there's even the flashbacks were like silly things, like she burns some food, and he's like, "Okay, restaurant," you know.
Yeah.
And it was nice and cute, and there were that. That's a I don't know whether it's just cinema these days or what, but these Eric and Shelley in the new Crow movie, they weren't good people. Whereas in
No,
India,
that's the
yeah,
thing, right? That's the thing. They weren't good people.
yeah,
So you
you
don't
don't care.
care.
Yeah, exactly. You don't care much about. She's an ex-prostitute. She killed someone, not through her own free will, but still, she's on drugs. He's on drugs, and even there's one scene where his best friend gets shot straight in the eye, and then so he's like on the sofa over here,
Yeah, yeah.
sad he's dead, and Eric, he's just doing his own thing, and just it's like, dude, your best friend is right here and he's dead, and you're like nothing's happening. It's not a good person, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't want to do this, but it makes us kind of do this because if you compare it to the Eric in The Crow, right? They do like you see that he's a good person. You see, that he cares about the girl Sarah, he cares about the policeman, he cares
Yep.
about people. He's got a heart still. Like he's still like back from the dead and taking vengeance, but you can still see there's humanity in it. But it was humanity that was there before it happened. This guy, he there's nothing.
Yeah, we don't even get to know much about him
I don't
in
even know
this
what he
one.
like I
What's
don't
he
know what
like or what he does? There's nothing there.
no. And I think the beauty of the original is like it even through those little tiny short flashbacks that showing these emotional things, there's so much more emotion and you see so much more what that character is feeling, for the other character and what
Oh
he
yeah.
had lost, right? This guy, it looks like they kind of trauma bonded. They, escaped this place. They started doing drugs together. They're hanging out, partying. So it looks kind of like a teenage fling type of thing versus a couple that is this established relationship who are supposed to get married.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you're supposed to care about them, and there's supposed to be a big tragedy that because of which he comes back. But this movie, it just undermines itself constantly. It's like they're not good people. They're doing stupid things. Like when she drops the drugs in front of the cops and she's trying to escape. Why not just come up to the cops and be like, "Hey, someone's stalking me" or something? Then when they when they leave the rehab slash prison or whatever the hell that was, it's like why didn't he leave before when he knew
Yeah,
how
he could have
exactly
just
how?
easily like got out.
And once they're out, then they know there's bad guys going after them, but they decide to stay in the same town.
Mhm.
Makes no sense.
No, it
And
may go on. It's so horrible.
yeah, and then the tragedy of it in the comics and in the original movie is that they're a really good couple. Especially Shelley, she kind of represents purity. Just a genuinely good person. They're super in love. But this is like, even when they can come out of the rehab, instead of being like, okay, let's cut the drugs and everything, start a new life, they just keep doing the same thing over again. That's a toxic relationship. And the tragedy of the old one, she's gone. Everything's gone, and they both demise in a very horrific way. Day before they were supposed to get married, on Devil's Night, she gets raped and shot. He gets shot, thrown out the window, and everything. In the comics, it's a bit different, but it's just as horrific. Whereas in this one, okay, you don't care much about it in the first place, and then they just get put plastic bags over their face.
And I was like, oh, with that, I was like, oh, something's happening, and you're like, no, nothing much is gonna happen. Don't get too excited.
Yeah,
and that was it.
That's also probably the biggest problem with this movie was the pacing.
Oh my
it's like
God.
I don't do it very often, but in this one, I did look at how much time was left of the movie. And I was like 40 minutes in, then nothing happened really.
Nothing happened.
And then also when something did happen, for a moment, something was I was like, oh, funny, it's picking up, and then it stops. It goes to a halt, more exposition, and
that was also. Oh, I'm sorry. Go. I just like have so much to say,
Yeah, it doesn't really start until it's. Imagine if you were watching the original movie, and the action and the whole plot, it doesn't start really up until the moment he goes to the cartel meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty much the whole movie gone at that point.
The original movie it moves so well, and like it keeps going, and I feel like, I mean, even I haven't I should have rewatched it before this, but I felt like it didn't slow down, right? It moved very quickly. And like this one, I made notes. I was like 37 minutes in, nothing's happened. 43 minutes till the first fight scene, I mean,
Yeah.
I think one problem I had was like you mentioned exposition, right? And there's so much exposition, and like even the guy he meets in the afterlife, that's just like exposition, man. Like he's like, and this is why you're the Crow.
Yeah.
Oh God,
that's just
it rolled
lazy.
my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lazy writing basically. It's just like instead of showing people, they just tell people. Even there was one point where he goes into this in between realm, meets this exposition guy. I think his name was Kronos.
Yes.
I don't know. So he talks to him, and it's like he basically asks, like, "What does it mean that I got healing powers and everything? I'm supposed to do things like?" It's like, dude, you really need that explained. Like, and this is also, think about it, in the original, there was a year that passed between their death and him coming back. In this one, it's instantaneous. Like, so everything that happened, like their death and everything, it just happened. And he's not angry about it. And he's not like, okay, I'm going to get these motherfuckers or something.
No, he's not.
Then that's not a problem with this character of Eric, which is not Eric Draven. It's not Eric from the original comics. He was so, like, I mean, Bill, I think he's done the best he could have with the script he was given. Yes. But for the most part, he was just indecisive, not confident. It was kind of pussy really about
I know.
everything.
When I think I told my sister about it or something yesterday, and I was like, he's kind of a bitch, you know. And and I said, when I think of the Brandon Lee Crow and how it was written, right? Like he's a nice guy, but also like he's mad. He's got rage, he's got inner anger, and sometimes he's like a little unhinged. And and you're like, this dude's freaking nuts, man. And then he's super nice, and he's chill, and
Yeah.
he's like, so I mean that character was so complex, but this guy's like, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I become the crow?
and
Makes a
then
lot of
the and
sense.
then the yeah, and then the other thing is that he's not really leading in this movie, especially at the beginning. He's just following her. She's doing
Yeah.
everything, and he's just following her like a puppy.
Yeah, he's
And
kind of like a very incredibly one-dimensional character, right? There's
yeah,
nothing to him. I know nothing about him. And I know Bill Skarsgård is a good actor. And I know, and I was like, but it's just the role is just kind of shitty. I read that like he was super strict with his diet, he worked out hard so that he could stay big for this,
hmm
but he barely gets to do anything other than like roll off a car, maybe fight two people, like a handful of dudes, the end.
yeah, it was super underwhelming. And the thing is, like, I tried to watch it, and it's like its own thing, and give it a chance. Like and they made it easier for me because it's so different from the original. It was from the beginning. I was like, okay, I'm watching a totally different movie. This has nothing to do with the original. So it made it
Uh,
easier to see it for its own thing.
oh, you know what? That would be a positive, right? They really were able to make it feel like something different. Um,
Yeah,
and I didn't really care. I don't know. I didn't care about the character, so that made it rough. And then we got to like I don't remember much about the villain. Like, yeah, he's a bad
yeah, he's
guy. Yeah,
forgettable as well.
very forgettable. And I think with this one, right, I couldn't tell you like what kind of movie is this, a drama? Is it a romance? Because it's not an action movie either. But it's not even a revenge movie. I struggled. I was like, what is this?
Yeah. I think I found out today. Kind of makes more sense to me now, like what happened there, because I looked up the director of this movie, Rupert Sanders.
Yes.
I looked up what kind of movies he did before, and the three that came up was Snow White and the Huntsman, which I haven't seen,
I
but I haven't heard particularly good things about it. Then Ghost in the Shell. The
this
Have you seen
this
it?
no, I think it's the Scarlett Johansson one. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that one.
No.
And now The Crow. And the thing is, I have seen the Ghost in the Shell
Who is
when I
it?
was probably still in the UK. I remember watching the anime, the original, and then
Yeah.
also his movie. I didn't know it
Ooh.
was his movie, and things kind of make more sense now because in the Ghost in the Shell movie, they dumbed down the plot, the main idea of the whole thing, which really undermined the whole thing. In the original anime, it was about consciousness, and it was very deep. Actually, I really liked
Oh,
it. And there were
yeah.
some scenes, like many of the scenes were like literally the same in both the anime and the movie, but many times in the movie they were kind of they changed something for the worse, and it wasn't
Okay.
as powerful as in the original. And the fact that at the end it was just about her losing her memory and her just having a human brain, it was like, yeah. So I think what his problem is he just doesn't recognize what made the original source material so special.
Yeah,
Because
because
in this one, there's obviously ways how to reimagine a movie or some source material and do it the right way. Like, for example, The Fly.
yes.
It was based on a 50s movie, and the Cronenberg movie from the 80s is so much more horrific and disgusting, but at the same time, it's very sad, tragic, and beautiful in some way. And it's a
Yeah.
really well-made remake. But this is not it. This is
This
not how you do it.
this is not it, right? It's I think for me too, like the lack of like any action, of any real action. Because I saw the trailer, I was like, there's gonna be action, and it's
Yeah,
so minimal that I barely remember any of it.
yeah. That's the thing. Like in the trailer makes it look more fast paced than the movie actually is. And then when it comes to the action scene at the end, I mean, it's decent,
Yeah, it's
but it's
decent.
also kind of forgettable, and because it also the good thing is that it's a bit more gory and everything, which
Mhm.
the comics is a lot more
Super,
brutal than
super.
the original movie. And also about the character of Eric, I forgot to say that actually, Brandon, he played it really well, but you could
Yes.
see that I think it was part of his personality shining through as well because he was generally a good guy. Everyone loved him, and you know. But yesterday, like I told you, I read through the comics last night, listening to the original soundtrack. It was super nice after so many years to read through it, and it just reminded me how much more menacing the Eric from the comics was.
Oh,
He was freaking scary, but he also had his nice soft moments, and he was like 6'5", super ripped, and the looks like he could, even Bill could have, like, there were moments where I saw Bill and I was like, look at his eyes, and it's like there was potential there, but
so it
obviously
was
not
so
realized.
close.
Yeah,
Like, because the description, you're like, this guy's ripped, he's really tall, so he really
yeah.
fits that look and stuff. And he's like, even Sylvain saying, like, he's good at playing a villain, so he can really access that darkness. But
Mhm.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, and about the fight scene, the thing is, in this movie, the new one, he just fights a bunch of security guards in, tuxedos, and even the main villain is just forgettable, and he's not very menacing. He's just an old guy who whispers to people's
It's
ears,
it's
you know.
literally like a businessman kind of mob boss guy. Like, he's not
Yeah,
physically threatening at all.
yeah, but in the original movie as well as the comics, like the each guy who was present when they killed Shelley and Eric, like they had their own personality, even though they were shallow characters, but they were memorable. Skank and T-Bird and all the
Yes.
rest of them. And then Top Dollar, he had at least style and a really good voice.
Yeah, no, that guy, dude, doesn't that guy have like a great voice? I can't play, but
Oh,
I
so good.
mean, God, it's so
I
good.
was,
I want to watch. I'm like, oh man, I should go watch The Crow right now.
yeah. And speaking of voices, there was also a problem with Eric's character because sometimes he just sounded so whiny. It was weird because just a few hours ago I saw an interview with Bill, and his
Yeah.
voice was a lot lower than in the movie.
So
It was so weird. Whereas, you watch the original movie, and I remember there's one scene when Eric is in the pawn shop. He
yes,
aims a shotgun at Giddy, and he's like, "Hold still!" It's like that moment his voice went a lot lower, and it was like so much more impactful. Whereas in this one, he's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna kill them all." It's
I'm
like,
gonna get them all. I'm gonna get my revenge. No, like I mean, it had. I don't know, because I don't believe that was his. Maybe it was his choice. Maybe it was the director's choice. But it was what he did come off whiny, and I also, I had also made that comment to somebody when I was like, who? Because I made so many comments about this movie this past since it's happened,
hmm,
that it's just he does come off whiny. He is like himself whiny. He we're not talking about you, Bill, personally. We're just talking about the character, but it's I watched that movie that he was in. Gosh darn it, I can't remember the name of it. I probably have it written down. Um, hold on. No, sorry. But anyways, the Bill Skarsgård. What the hell is the name of that movie? Boy Kills World, right? So I was really looking forward to seeing him do some action, and it's
mhm.
it just wasn't enough and generic. And he got a katana out of nowhere. I was like, where did this katana come into play?
I mean, the katana was in the original and also in the comics.
Okay.
But again, it was so much better made. In, for example, in the comics, he takes on two of the guys he's after, and can't remember what the name of that guy was. But anyway, it's in a room. He flicks the light off. The guy's trying to shoot him, where he can't see anything, and then Eric just chops his freaking feet off. And
Oh,
yeah, and
dang.
the thing is, every time he kills someone, there's also some dialogue, and Eric has this like a very dark sense of humor, and you can see like he's on the verge of going insane, really.
Yes.
You know, you can't see it in this one really, and when he kills them, there's not he doesn't say anything, doesn't have this sense of humor that the actual Eric had. Yeah, that's the comics. So good.
But no, but I mean, it's good too, and I'm so glad that because I've only kind of glanced through it, but I'm so glad you have a good grasp on it, and you're able to compare like this Eric to the film '94 Eric to the 2024 Eric, and
Yeah,
it's
you cannot even not compare them because it has the
yeah,
same. It's the Crow, and the main characters are Eric and Shelley. The thing
yeah,
is, like, they would have been a lot better off if it wasn't a Crow movie, or
yeah.
if it was a Crow movie that it would have been just totally different characters, just like the sequels.
Yes. We're going to get into the sequels in a minute,
Yeah.
but I wanted to ask you, like, if you were in charge of the reboot, right? Like, who do you have, like, an actor that you feel like would fit as Eric? Because I also have a list of actors that have been connected to this movie for the past, like, more than a decade.
Yeah, this has been going on since 2008, and they just didn't manage to pull it off until now.
I know.
I
It
was just
makes you think, right? It makes you think. It's like if you can't pull it off, then let it go, guys.
yeah, yeah. So not sure about the actor. Like Jason Momoa didn't look that bad. There was some
Actually,
test screening,
I have a
but
photo of Jason Momoa for
yeah,
you guys to see here. Where is it? Jason Momoa. There you are. I called it Momoa Crow. How about that?
yeah.
I would have, because the Momoa one, it would have been different, right? Momoa Crow.
There was actually some test screening shots where it was actually him
Yeah,
wearing the makeup, and it looked decent, although he's a bit bulky.
he's huge, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think maybe Bill could have done it pretty decently, given a good script and having the long hair. And the thing is that even with the makeup, he had the masks tattooed
On his
on his
hand,
hand.
right?
So why couldn't he just
You're
do the
like,
same
oh,
thing?
yeah.
It was already there, yet he had to just do it like differently, through
He's like,
corners of his
do it
eyes
like
and
this. Yeah, I'm gonna do it like this. Yeah, it's So then all of a sudden, right? It's like, well, why even show us the mask tattoo that he has on his hand? Because
yeah,
it doesn't actually end up doing anything.
exactly. And when you're asking like how I would have gone about it, like the best way would have been just go to the source material and adapt the
Mhm.
comics. Like I think if you would have done it like as close as possible, because even the '94 movie there was quite a lot of differences between the comics and the movie. If you would have done that, then the fans would have been okay with that because it's just a different take on the absolute original Crow.
Yeah,
And I think it would have looked, I think, yeah, given a good director, it would have been really good.
yeah. I
But
mean, they're
yeah,
just it's there. I mean, since 2008, right? It was originally with Stephen Norrington, who was gonna direct that, and you guys know Norrington did Blade.
hmm,
So you're like, yeah, he could probably do it. there were like a ton of actors. I wrote down a whole list because it was Luke Evans, right? And Luke Evans dropped out. He was like, I don't want to try to step into Brandon Lee's shoes. I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa, which we just saw. I mean, people, Bradley Cooper, Mark Wahlberg, Channing Tatum, Robert Pattinson, James McAvoy, Tom Hiddleston, even Alexander Skarsgård. You know,
Oh yeah.
his brother. Yeah, his brother was Jack Houston, Ryan Gosling, Nicholas Holt, and some other dude. But there was and other directors. So it just it it. I mean, you've heard of the whole thing, right? The is it cursed?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I think there's just something something very unique and quite dark about this whole Crow IP. Like, because we know that it wasn't written to be published in the first place. Because like in the early 80s, James O'Barr, the guy who made the comics, his fiance got run over by a drunk driver. Yeah. And the Crow comics, it was his outlet. So he kind of processed the death of his fiance through it. And it was like 9 years in the making or something like that. Only then someone, was like, you got something. Then he got approached. There was an idea at the beginning for Michael Jackson to star in a musical adaptation of this.
Wow.
But fortunately, Alex Proyas and Brandon Lee, they stepped in and were like, okay, we gotta stick to the source material a bit more, And so even when you watch the movie, and even more so when you read the comics, you're gonna feel lots of the feelings that he put into it and what he's gone through, James O'Barr, I mean. And I think it got somehow imprinted on it, and there was just a lot of bad things that happened ever since, to do with the Crow, the movie, the comics, the other movies. So like, obviously the worst thing that happened was Brandon Lee getting shot.
Yes.
And they were making a movie, and he died. So basically, this is like his tombstone, his final work. The Crow.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It's his, and I think
his
that's
legacy.
Yeah, and that's what people have been saying all around, right? This is kind of his legacy. And this movie, oh no, is that not a picture? Shit. Let's see this one. We'll do this one. Just want to put his picture. But it's let me get that picture up. Sorry. It's it was a horrible accident, right? And because he was shot with a prop gun, with a gun, a real gun, because they used to use real guns, but there was a, what?
Like a bullet lodged in it, or, and someone didn't check it properly. And so they were making a scene where he comes into his apartment, and, the gang is already there. And I think it was Funboy, or the guy playing Funboy. Yeah, he basically, when Eric enters the room, he just points a gun at him and shoots him. And during the making of that scene, he got shot, and a few hours later he died.
Yeah, and so it's incredibly tragic, right? And
yeah,
and I believe that guy ended up, the actor ended up quitting acting, and he ended up, it messed him up.
Yeah, and there were other things that also happened. There was like some of the set pieces caught on fire. Then the staff, there were two vans that collided with each other. A bunch of other things that happened. Then I remember when I was back in Slovakia, where I'm from, I had I got my hands on a copy of the Crow. It was in Czech, but there was a part dedicated to the weird stuff that happened around it. So there was like a lot of the companies that they were printing the Crow comics, they went bankrupt shortly after. Then I'm not sure if it was when they were making the Czech version or somewhere else. The printer just fell through the floor.
Oh,
and
wow.
in some other case, there was a problem with the file, so everything that was printed was messed up. Today, actually, I heard that there was also this TV series starring Mark Dacascos.
Yes.
He would be a good fit actually for for the Crow.
Yeah,
Apparently,
that,
they were
yeah.
friends, Brandon and
Oh, they
Mark.
were friends.
Yeah, supposedly.
Let's see,
So apparently, a stunt actor died during the making of it from a head injury.
oh,
Yeah, and then
shoot, I
obviously
thought.
the sequels they, they flopped, just like this one. And this movie has been in works since 2008. Now it came out, 50. They put 50 million in it, and so far it made like five.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, 50 million. They made there here. This is what, City of Angels with
Yeah.
Vincent Perez and Mia Kirshner and
Hmm.
Iggy Pop.
Yeah,
And I mean that was the first one. So I think, that one not too horrible, right?
that was actually the first one I saw.
Oh, you saw that
Yeah,
first.
yeah. I remember being still in Slovakia. It was I didn't see the very beginning of it, but
Oh, here we go.
just I think I saw the most of the movie. I was like, man, I like the style of it and how it looked. The movie, the lead actress was so pretty, and the music and everything. Then I found the original movie, and I was like, okay, they just ripped off the original. And then I found the comics, and that's literally the best of them all. But the second one has grown on me on over the years, and actually, if it wasn't of Harvey Weinstein, that
Yeah,
whose
the
guy
whole,
he's in prison, yeah,
yeah.
if he wouldn't have butchered it, it would have been a much better movie. And there was like also lots of good things about it. And actually, I think that that movie had a lot more care, and they did it in a much better way than this one. Because I heard that when they were making it or were thinking of making it, they actually went on some online forums back then, and they asked the
Oh,
fans like, if we do something, like a new Crow movie,
yeah.
what do you want it to be about? Would you want it to be about Eric or? So they were like, the most of the people were like, we're happy with a new Crow movie as long as the lead is not Eric again.
Right. And it seems fair, right? It
Yeah,
seems fair to, if that's what, and then it look, and these people are like, we're gonna do no market testing. We're not gonna like ask people at all. We're just gonna do our thing because
yeah. Literally, no one
there's
asked for this movie. That's
no.
the thing.
It's true. There's nobody that was like, you know what? They should make another Crow. I would love to see it rebooted. Nobody said that except for
Yeah,
the guys making the movie, right?
yeah.
Nobody
I,
was like,
I,
we
I'm
want to
I'm
see
really not
more.
sure what they're thinking these days. It's like it seems to me like they think that the audiences, modern audiences especially, they cannot relate to something that's more than 10 years ago. Like or they cannot, at least like the filmmakers, they think people these days cannot relate to someone who's not looking the same there as they do, or who's
Right.
not of the same skin color, or I don't know what,
Yeah,
which is absolute nonsense, obviously.
it's a weird way of thinking because even
Yeah,
when I was, younger, teenager, early 20s, I'd still watch old movies, from like the old diet, and I still do, it's from a
yeah,
different time. It's interesting to see. It's not like, oh, I can't connect with these characters because they don't have cell phones. I don't, it's weird. Or they don't have face tattoos, they don't look like
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Um,
What were they thinking? Like, um, most people don't look like Eric in a movie. They're not drug addicts. So
with
what was he
with
thinking? Like,
mullets, all the
oh,
mullet haircut, the bad face tattoos,
even the clothing for the most part. I had a few moments where I was looking at Bill in the movie, like before his transformation into a crow, and I was looking at him like he's got no style, just wearing some gray T-shirt, big T-shirt. And it's like such a difference from the original. That even the villain and Eric himself, they had some style to them.
yes, they
This
had
one is just like,
something, right? There's this
yeah,
a look, a style, and this guy's just like a dude. He's literally just a dude,
dressed up
that.
like a teenager or like a toddler.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, he's got a t-shirt and jeans on. I mean, maybe that's what they were trying to tell us because the whole their costuming, the wardrobe, it tells the whole story about the person, right? And it gives us an insight in the character. And to me, it looks like either they just were like, yo, the kids, they wear t-shirts. Let's put Eric in a t-shirt. And maybe some like baggy jeans. I don't know,
Yeah.
they'll connect better.
Yeah, those are also other details, like in the original, both comics and the movie. For example, like the way he wrapped his hands.
Yes, I think I can
But
re-show you this.
in the comics, it was because he was actually self harming himself. He would cut
Oh,
himself, and the wounds he inflicted on himself, they wouldn't heal. So that's why
oh,
he wrapped his
that's
hands.
interesting.
Yeah,
What's interesting about in this movie is they're like, we're gonna really show. For some reason, there's like there's several scenes of like, oh look at him heal. Oh look, he cut himself, and they seem to put a lot of time into that to where I was like, I got it. He can heal.
yeah,
And it just, I don't know, it lost me at that point. But going back to like the original in the comics.
yeah, yeah. Again, it's just completely different story, the original, as well as the movie, and everything was just done better over there. Like
I think,
even this setting and how it all looked. Like there were moments when I was looking at the new movie and it's like, this looks nice. Or some moments the music was decent enough. Some moments I was like, what the hell is that?
yeah, I mean, there's
But
like there's there's a look, right? And there's like iconic images that are there are iconic things from this movie that are very visually at the time stood out. It kind of it made you remember, like, look, he's in the shadow, the whole thing's like backlit. That might not even actually be him, but
no, that was one of the scenes where they used a stunt double because Brandon was already on the outside.
do you know the stunt double guy story? You know who that is?
I think I heard something, but go on.
So Chad Zawinski, right? The guy who did John Wick, who's also doubled for Keanu Reeves, right? So he
Hmm.
he actually, was training in martial arts school with Brandon at the time, right? And him and Brandon were friends. They worked out together. And Chad was a big fan of The Crow, so they kind of BS about it, while they were working out. And one day Brandon comes and he's like, I fucking got it. The guy's like, yeah, fuck you, bro, and they were all excited, right? And so, Brandon goes off and does a movie, they have the tragic accident, and then, they reach out to Chad, right? The director, and the director's like, I really want you, the same fighting style, your build is very similar. We want you to come in and shoot the rest of the scenes so we can finish the
Hmm.
movie. And he didn't want to do it at first, but Alex invited him to his home. He screened, some of the scenes for him, and he sat there and he thought, he's like, yeah, Brandon was my friend. I'm gonna do it, right? So he does it, and then he ends up later, which leads to him later making John Wick, right, where he like they don't use real guns on set in that movie. They only use CG for the guns, and that because that whole the accident, he lost his friend.
Yeah.
So it really inspired him from there for the gun safety in the films too.
Hmm. Didn't know that.
Yeah, so I found that, and funnily enough, if you think about it, John Wick is a revenge movie, just like The Crow. His wife dies. He's got to, and yeah, crazy, right? So I saw the connection there, and I was like, thinking about it, it's really interesting.
That also leads me to something that I wanted to say. Like in the original, the way they portrayed Detroit, it
Yes,
was like a character of its own, really, the city.
very much so. I agree
This
with that.
one, it's obviously happening it's like it's happening, the new one, it's happening in the US, in a European
Yeah,
city.
yeah,
I'm not sure if it was so obvious to you because I grew up
in the area.
in Europe.
Yeah.
So I could recognize like this is not a US city. This is
Oh no,
obviously a European city.
so it was like it was so much more obvious, right? Too, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know, is it some town I never saw before?
No, to me it was like straight up,
Oh
European. I
man.
was actually in Prague
So did it kill it for you? You're like, it took you out of it. You're like,
a little bit, yeah. And the thing is, like the way everything looked in the movie, you could take out the characters, put someone else in from a different movie or something,
Yeah.
and it would made a difference. It has no soul of its own. There's nothing unique about it. It's just a decently enough looking modern movie, but it's just generic. Whereas the old one, you see it and you know what kind of movie you're watching.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Even the sequel, it had a really good style. The
a
following one,
visual style,
yeah,
right? I think, one thing that, I mean, not one thing, but, what stands out about it is it's very, it's very desaturated. It's very close to like black and white, right? Very close.
yeah,
But like the colors that you end up seeing are, very deep reds, and those are the things that pop. And so it also kind of lends to that feeling of a graphic novel. Whereas
hmm,
this is like they're in pink, it's bright. I don't know what's going on. There's an opera.
yeah. In the original movie, there was this contrast, like in the present and everything. That's like you said, it's and there were only two scenes that were shot during the day. Everything else was shot during the night. Which this one, the new one, that kind of took me away. I was like watching it, and there was lots of scenes made during the day. That's one thing. And in the original, that like you said, it was kind of like desaturated and everything was kind of dark. But then you had the flashbacks; they were like in Technicolor,
And they're
very bright. It's a
warm and
contrasting and kind of dreamy.
yeah.
And it was so well made over there. Whereas this one, there's no flashbacks really.
There's not because they're like, we're gonna show you the whole damn thing for 40 minutes, right? Their like
Yeah.
weekend relationship here. I think it suffers from too, like somebody not being that creative with the visual style, the look, the cinematography. They just were like, hey, we're gonna do it like this, right? So I just I feel like I don't know because I wasn't involved with the film, but I feel like a lot of it was lazy filmmaking, um even the editing like is slow, it's bad, the pace is off, the story's
Oh,
off, like it doesn't know what it is or what it's doing, and so the audience is on this ride of I'm bored.
yeah, I felt totally drained after that. After
You
watching the
messaged
movie.
me and I'm
Yep.
like, no, don't say that. I know I'll be fine. And then as soon as I start watching, I was like, nope, I know exactly what you mean. This is
Yeah.
like the worst. Nothing happens. I mean, if I were to say like, let's see if we hit everything. Hold on, I'm gonna check, guys. I got my Jess Crow notes before I. Okay, so I guess we've kind of gotten to the point just where it's like, tell me how you feel. How do you really feel about it? Like, did it? I mean, tell me. Our final like words, our final thoughts on the whole damn thing.
Yeah. Like again, I gave it a shot. Like I say, it was easier for me to see it's for its own thing because it's so different.
100%.
But honestly, I think the pacing just killed it off so much. I even heard someone say like if you would take out the first 2/3 of the movie, you would end up with something half decent,
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you cut it
like
down to
a short fan fiction kind of crow thing.
that is
And
exactly what I felt. If they cut all that out, it would be like a fan fiction film.
yeah, I'm not hating on it just because I like the original or anything, but honestly, there's better ways of doing it. And after that, I haven't felt like this after any other movie. I think, where I felt just drained, and the pacing, like it was just so awful. Like nothing's happening, then something happens, and it just grinds to a halt. Then you don't care much about them because they're not good people.
They're
They
not.
do stupid things.
There's no redeeming qualities to
No,
them. So you're like, why
and
why why do I care?
they overcomplicated the whole plot. Like actually, if you go to the original movie, it's a lot simpler, and the comics is even simpler, and it has
Right?
even less paranormal stuff.
This it was convoluted, I'd also say. I want to throw that
Hmm.
word in there. You know, I think, I read online someone kind of said, what I would have liked to see, like, do something different, even just change the setting. Like, what if they did like a cyberpunk version, of the story and brought it into like, same elements, but in a different environment, change
Hmm.
something. not just like there's these two teenagers or early 20s people in a city. I don't know what city it is. I don't know what's going on. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you want to waste 2 hours, including travel time if you're driving to the theater, then you watch it, but really, go back and watch the original. I mean, even the sequels are probably, I haven't seen all the sequels, but
Me neither.
they're probably better.
Yeah.
This one, beautiful soundtrack, memorable. I listened a little bit before the show and I was like, you can listen to like the whole soundtrack, it really, and the music worked well with every scene in the film. This one had nothing really memorable. I don't remember any of the music used in this film.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, no one's gonna listen to the soundtrack of this movie 30 years from
No.
now, like
No.
we do with the original.
Yeah, like you can go back, you can go to YouTube. You're like, I want to listen to the Crow soundtrack. Boom, you can sit and listen to it.
They
Like,
great.
it's
They had great bands on it, and I remember hearing about Brandon. He was just super excited about the soundtrack. He loved it.
see, it's so there's even that like touch of him, on that too,
Yeah,
and I think maybe they should not. I mean, maybe they should have just let it go and done it with if they really really wanted and had to do it with a
do it
different
with care.
person. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so this did nothing. This whole ordeal did nothing, for the series, for the franchise. It didn't pay any homage to the original film or the characters. So
there were like maybe like a handful of things that I noticed, and they were like straight up from the original movie or comics, but they just stood out way too much because it's a totally different movie. And when you use the same lines from the original, it just seems like a ripoff.
You know what happened when I heard it, right? I groaned. I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then I'd like get up and I'd be like, oh my God, I can't do this, And when they like closed up on the hand, I'm like, stop. It's all, I can't handle it. Now why are you, okay, so you want to pay on, and then this is what you're going to take the exact lines, which were great in voiceover in the first movie, and then give them to like exposition, man. And then I'm just like, somebody, please take me out. I can't do this anymore.
Oh, and also I forgot to say about the ending.
Oh
Shall we
yeah,
spoil
this is
it?
important.
Oh.
Yeah, spoil it.
Yeah,
Nobody's gonna watch it.
Yeah, exactly. You're not missing out on anything. So.
Yeah, you're not missing on anything. We're saving you time.
Yeah, exactly. A friend of mine actually messaged me. I told him that, I watched the new Crow movie. And I was like, just don't watch it. Go back to the original. And I was like, thanks, because I was just about to watch it. So I saved him 2 hours of his life.
2 hours. We are doing a service. We are helping people here.
Oh,
you saved your friend.
Another thing, I really think that this movie was originally a bit longer. And if not a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes or something like that. Because have you noticed there was this character, it was this musician that was present in a few scenes, watching some bad stuff happen, and we never got to find out who she was, why she was there.
It just disappears. The character there's nothing, and you're like, wait, what? It seems like it, right? So it's like, what, you edited? You guys went through like half the movie or more, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, no,
it made no sense. And then the ending, it was like in the original movie, that was part of tragedy. Shelley was gone, and she was gone for good.
She's never coming back.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like Eric, he then ended up going back to the other side, and he ended up with her. Which in the I really love the ending of the original comics, because it's he goes to a graveyard. It's day actually. It's snow everywhere. I can totally imagine it in a movie. Like there's some flashbacks to where he's with Shelley, and there was this part of the dialogue. He says like, "Do you remember when you said mine?" And I said forever, and you said only just forever. And he's like, now it's forever. And then he reaches for the gun,
Yeah.
And there's a few shot like drawings, and it is so beautiful. It's even better than the Brandon Lee movie.
The film, yeah.
Yeah, it's just really beautiful, and it's really impactful. It makes you feel something. This one, she comes back from the dead. She's
Yeah.
resurrected, but technically her soul, consciousness, or whatever, travels back in time to a moment where it's like a few minutes after they were killed, or you know, she
Some
couldn't have been
right.
out for that long. And it's like, is this a different timeline? Did nothing, none of the movie happen actually, or what's going on? It makes no sense.
It it made no sense, and it a lot of it didn't make sense because the other thing we missed too is that he became the crow, right? And then he finds out that she's a bat, like she murdered somebody, and he's like, oh, I've lost faith in her, and then he gets shot, or and then he ends up dying again. So then he comes the crow again, and the guy's like, well, do you really love her? If and he's like, no, she's worth it, I'm gonna come back. And then that happens, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's bad.
It was so bad. She comes back to life. We don't even know what happens. He remains dead. It's just it's like that drawing they do of the horse where like the back of, or I don't know which way it's going, but like it's like the back of it's all nice. It's all nice. They spend a lot of time drawing it, and then the front.
Oh
By
yeah.
the time they get to this is kind of what happened with this movie. They're like, we're gonna spend so much time on these characters, and establishing the relationship, barely like relationship, a little bit of vengeance, and then oh what? Wait, what's happening? And now it's kind of actiony, and what? He's dying for this. What? And she's gonna come back, even though she's the person that like really did wrong. He kind of just got dragged along for the ride. So, boo.
Speaking of endings, the sequel, the original ending, that was also I really like it. Like after Weinstein, chopped
Yeah, yeah.
down most of the movie, or a big chunk of the movie, the ending was basically the same as the original movie.
Okay.
But the original ending, I found that was also like quite touching, because basically Sarah, she dies,
Yeah.
and Ash, he ends up stuck in this world. He cannot go to her, so they cannot end up together. And he goes to this church, and I can't remember what the guy says to him, but he's basically saying that has to stay here, and he's like, one more shadow that won't make this city any darker. And he just rides off, and he just he cannot be with his son, and he cannot be with Sarah, with whom he fell in love with.
So see there, if that like at the time people were probably more rough on it, but looking back, like you're saying, there are like the moment at the end really makes it right.
Yeah.
It's journey that we didn't get with this movie, and so it's not even necessarily like connecting it to the first movie or not. It's just like it's a bad movie. The second movie had a lot more thought put into it, and the characters
Yeah.
and everything, and this one just
I think it literally was just like a cash grab. He had his idea for his own movie, where he wanted to piggyback off the core IP to get more
yeah.
people to see it and everything. And Alex Proyas, he tried to stop this thing like for a long time.
God
because-
bless him for trying,
Yeah, it's not because he's like, oh, no one's gonna touch my movie or something. It was because of
No.
Brandon. They were friends and everything. And he said something like, I thought this would be like a cynical cash grab, but it
Yeah.
seems like there's not much cash to grab.
I saw that quote. It made me laugh so hard. I was like, there is no cash. I think last I saw it was like 4.5 million or something.
Yeah.
That it had brought in. And I think most of that is people watching it to review it for their YouTube channel or podcast, because I don't know anybody who actually. Well, actually, I saw like somebody that I knew on Facebook that went with some friends to watch, and they were like super stoked. So maybe there's like some people out there, like a handful of people, but I don't think it's a large number of people.
No, and it's good. Being when they put out garbage, whether it's this movie or something else, we cannot give them money for that. Those kinds of movies that are just lazy remakes or just have bad writing or whatever, we just cannot give them money because that sends them a signal that they cannot do this kind of stuff. Otherwise, they're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah, because
They need to
we're
do
not
better than that.
we're not gonna watch your shitty movies
Yep.
and then have you guys keep shitting them out. I want to watch. I love movies. That's why I made this channel. I
Yeah, me
love.
too.
I know, and we've always talked. We both love movies and just like the whole thing from the writing, the story, just the whole ride.
Hmm.
And man, was this a bad one. Hopefully next time it's a better one. This one was bad. I'm still hurt. I have PTSD, right? I close my eyes and I see I'm like, what is this scene? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I
Why?
also want to be a bit more upbeat and make more jokes. Before that's what that was my intention before I watched the movie. But then I
And then
watched it and it was just so fucking depressing.
it took
Not
it
not
took
not not like the story of it, but just how bad it was.
it was so bad. No, like I think I have been suffering too since then. I'm like, wow, this because it's not like the movie. It's like the whole not not the story like you said, but it's
Yeah.
like man, how did something that shitty get made? And how
Yeah.
many
Who
people
approved
had to
it?
agree? How many people had to fucking agree on this? And say like, yes, we're gonna put money into it. Yes, we're gonna move forward with this. Like, who the fuck said this script is fucking killer? Let's do it. Let's do it right now.
And like you said, there are movies that were a lot cheaper
A
and they
lot
look a lot
cheaper.
better than this, and also have better story and everything.
I was off the top of my head. I was like, freaking Godzilla minus one was like reported at $15 million. It is beautiful. This was the first time I ever felt connected to a human in a Godzilla movie.
Mhm.
Like the thing about Godzilla minus one is for the low budget, they were able to really make it a human story, which is hard to do with these big monster movies. Also,
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful effects, done well. This movie, I think you told me it was like 50 million. I'm like, well, would they really spend it
Yeah,
on?
50.
It just looks normal.
Apparently, it was 25 to make it, then 10 million for the IP, and
Mhm.
15 on advertising.
Shit, maybe they should have taken some off the advertising, put a little more into the because it just looks like, it's mostly shot on location, and they went over to Europe. They picked a nice, area to shoot. So it looks, shooting on location allows them to make it kind of look like they have more money behind it, than if they were to shoot at a lot, where it might look like a TV show.
Yeah, that's true. Or even then, it still looks kind of
It's-
generic. There
It
was some
it looked
moments, I quite liked when he was in the opera house.
that
And there
was
was
the
like a
only thing I
shot.
liked.
There was a shot at him after he throws the heads into the audience, and you could see some of his pain and the fact that he was covered in blood. I mean, that was pretty good, kind
Yeah,
of like
that's
the
pretty.
old comics and everything. But also, like he kills a bunch of people over there, and then there's he didn't kill the main guy yet, and there's like this moment where he's again sad and takes the you know bouquet to the place, and it was lots of action, and it slows down just before he's supposed to kill the main guy, or why he could have waited once everything's done, then just be sad and
And
whatever.
yeah, why were you sad in between? Go kill the main guy, then the close of the movie with you being sad, or with him being sad. I think the opera house scene was probably the most interesting scene in the whole movie.
Yeah,
And it was the only one I was like, okay, now I'm kind of watching. Now I'm feeling more engaged with it, and then yeah, it just kind of ends up fizzling out from there. Oh man,
yeah. And the
I
thing
I
is, like, there was also this scene where he confronts one of the guys who killed him, and it's
mhm.
also like he's just walking down the street, and it's like, "Oh, you killed me." It's like,
No, it's
and
kind of like that. It's not like, where he's in the alley, he's like, victims aren't we all, and then fucking
yeah,
stabs the guy. He's like, hey,
and no, what I was about to say when he shoots him in the car, I kind of appreciate the realism when the sound went off, and it was like because when you shoot in a closed space, even in a room like this,
Yeah.
like you're not gonna hear anything. It's freaking loud.
It's like, oh yeah, you're not gonna hear
Yeah.
anything after. Yeah.
But then when he's in the opera house, there's like 100 shots being fired, and no one notices
No.
outside or inside the house.
No, it's just little things like that. I don't know. It's just blah blah. I have nothing. I think
Yeah.
I've run out of words for it, honestly.
Yeah. Again, the only good thing is that the original movie got another release, and then it just reminded all of us that the original, both the movie and the comics, are just so good.
So good, so
Like
good.
I had a good time reading the comics yesterday and listening to the soundtrack properly. I think back when I first listened to the soundtrack, apart from a few songs, I'll generally listen to heavier music. But this time I was like, man, this is really freaking good.
It's really good. It is. It's so good. And I think I just think there's so many elements of the first movie that made it so perfect, from the soundtrack,
It's so memorable.
So memorable. And it's rare, especially I've been talking, about, we were going to talk about this. It's just not most people. I love the original Crow with Brandon Lee, one of my favorite movies. It's a movie that, has a beautiful soundtrack. I can watch it. And these are things I hear people say, right? And there's not a lot of movies. I don't know a lot of movies out there that I've never heard somebody be like, I don't like The Crow. I never liked it. I always hear people say, I really love that movie. It's generally well liked.
Yeah. Generally, yeah. They either say like, yeah, it's a good movie. I'm just not like a huge fan. But I think that's as bad as it gets, really.
Yeah. I mean, I really, like, after this, I really, I'm probably gonna go watch it maybe this weekend, but I really do want to watch it. I've been kind of looking through the comic. I haven't sat and read it yet, but I'm going to, because I have it here ready to go. But I think you're right. I think the positive way to look at this whole thing is like, yeah, go check out, the other stuff that's better. Maybe you haven't seen City of Angels. Maybe people didn't know about it, and now they can check it out. It allows, at least it opens the door for something else.
Yeah, and if you do watch City of Angels, you can find on YouTube some videos about like what went wrong with the movie. I think if you there was a video that I sent you as well.
Yes,
which goes through also the difference from what was supposed to be, like some of the scenes, and they're just a lot more impactful, and there was lots of care, and it was just a lot better than what we actually got.
It's just tragic, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's good that you can go on YouTube and check that out, and if
that's true.
I think what's nice is, I mean, the movie, I can't believe, is like 30 years old just this year. I mean, there's a ton of things out there. You can go out, you can look and find a lot of articles written about what happened during that time, people connected to it, videos. There's a lot of information out if you kind of want to look into that as well. But I think with that, I think it's time to wrap it up and stop making people hear. I mean, we were talking about the good stuff though, actually, at the end, but I say my review is, if you want to watch it, wait till it goes to streaming, so you're not paying anything. And if
don't pay anything for this movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't pay anything. Try to save like that 2 hours of your life. I think there's other things you could be doing with your time, like watching the original, reading the book. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for hanging out tonight. Yeah, the actor Vincent Perez was a popular French actor back in the day. Yeah, so
he didn't really speak English when they were making the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he have to he just had to do it like phonetically?
I guess.
I don't know. I imagine that to be very difficult. I don't know how you could act without.
He did actually a pretty good job in that movie. In some ways, he was a bit more unhinged, kind of like the original Eric.
Yeah, I think I dig that, because I mean, I know I'm like, we're gonna close it, but that unhingedness, right? You were dead and you came back. You got to be a little bit
lost you're not everything.
You're not gonna be okay when you're doing. Like, you're not okay. There's a lot of like crazy shit going on in there after all that. Like, So I
That's
think
true.
that's something that they really should have incorporated a little more, or maybe it was so subtle they couldn't really pull it out when they, made the film with Bill Skarsgård.
Like if he would have hesitated for a few minutes, like okay, you're confused, and I get that, but it just took way too long for him to actually kick some ass.
I know. I'm sorry. One more time, guys. He did become the Crow 2 times in this movie. I was not expecting that. I don't know why. When I tell people that, they're like, "What?" I was like, "No, he becomes a crow twice."
Yeah.
Boo, boo. I want to thank Elvis for hanging out. Thank you, Sylvain, for hanging out in the chat. We'll be back soon with another show, guys. You can follow me on Nerd Culture or Nerd_Culture on Twitter. Follow us here on YouTube. Leave a comment in the chat. What's your favorite Crow movie, and if you watched the new one, did you like it? Elvis, where can people find you?
Also on Instagram, lifeofelvis.podcast. I've got two accounts, but you know what? Just go to lifeofelvis.com. You'll find
Okay.
everything there.
Okay, we'll
Both
put
the
that
YouTube
link.
channels, all for Instagram and Instagrams, and also my other website, terravitality.com.
Awesome. I'll put it on the description down there for everybody to check
Thank you.
out. Thank you so much, Elvis.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Can't wait till we, figure out another movie to do. Maybe something that is awesome, instead of something that is so sad. So
we'll figure out something.
We'll figure out something. So thank you so much. And we'll see everybody soon. Soon. Thank you, guys.